Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadhirayet Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke Bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Now, before I chant this verse, we've had quite a few longer verses, and this is just a regular size Anushtup verse, 8 syllables per line. But it's a little tricky, so watch the meter. Okay. Now, I'm going to do, as I chant the, because I've been hearing Prabhupada on a tape lead the chanting, do word by word, like we're doing here. But after each line, then we chant the line. Then he chants the line, you see, and in that way you remember what it sounds like. So we'll try that system. Shri Rudra Uvacha Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopa Kalo Yugantas Te Kopa Kalo Yugantas Te Hato Ayam Asuro Alpaka Hato Ayam Asuro Alpaka Tatsutam Pahi Upasutam Tatsutam Pahi Upasutam Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopakalo Yugantas Te Hato Yamasorolpakaha Tatsutam Payupasutam Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopakalo Yugantas Te Hato Yamasorolpakaha Tatsutam Payupasutam Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopakalo Yugantas Te Hato Yamasorolpakaha Tatsutam Payupasutam Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopakalo Yugantas Te Hato Yamasorolpakaha Tatsutam Payupasutam Kopakalo Yugantas Te Te Bhaktavatsala Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopakalo Yugantas Te Hato Yamasorolpakaha Tatsutam Payupasutam Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala Shri Rudra Uvacha Kopakalo Yugantas Te Hato Yamasorolpakaha Tatsutam Payupasutam Bhaktam te bhaktavatsala. Shri Rudra Uvacha. Kopakalo yugantas te. Hato yamasaropakaha. Tatsutam payupasutam. Bhaktam te bhaktavatsala. Anyone else online?
Shri Rudra Uvacha.
Shri Rudra Uvacha.
Kopakalo yugantaste.
Kopakalo yugantaste.
Atoyam ashrolpaka.
Hatoyam asarolpakaha.
Tatsutam payupasutam.
Tatsutam payupasutam.
Bhaktam te bhaktavatsala.
Bhaktam te bhaktavatsala. Shri Rudra Uvacha. Lord Shiva offered this prayer. Kopakalaha. The right time for your anger. For the purpose of annihilating the universe. Yuga Antaha. The end of the millennium. Te. By you. Hataha. Killed. Ayam. This. Asuraha. Great demon. Alpakaha. Very insignificant. Tatsutam. His son Prahlāda Mahārāja. Pahi. Just protect. Upasutam. Who was surrendered and standing nearby. Bhaktam. Devotee. Te. Of your lordship. Bhaktavatsala. O my Lord, who are so affectionate to your devotee. Translation. Lord Shiva said, so this is the second of the prayers. Everyone's now offering their prayers, demigods. The end of the millennium is the time for your anger. Now that this insignificant demon, Hiranyakashipu, has been killed, O my Lord, who are naturally affectionate to your devotee, kindly protect his son Prahlāda Mahārāja, who is standing nearby as your fully surrendered devotee. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the creator of the material world. There are three processes in creation, namely creation, maintenance, and finally annihilation. During the period of annihilation, at the end of each millennium, the Lord becomes angry, and the part of anger is played by Lord Shiva, who is therefore called Rudra. When the Lord appeared in great anger in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, everyone was extremely afraid of the Lord's attitude. But Lord Shiva, knowing very well that the Lord's anger is also his Leela, was not afraid. Lord Shiva knew that he would have to play the part of anger for the Lord. Kala means Lord Shiva, Bhairava, and Kopa refers to the Lord's anger. These words, Kopakala, combined together as Kopakala, refer to the end of each millennium. Actually, the Lord is always affectionate toward his devotees, even though he may appear very angry. Because he is Avyayatma, because he never falls down, even when angry, the Lord is affectionate toward his devotees. Therefore, Lord Shiva reminded the Lord to act like an affectionate father toward Prahlāda Mahārāja, who is standing by the Lord's side as an exalted, fully surrendered devotee. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshura Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, we have just been witnessing an example of the Lord's anger. I don't know if there's even a more dramatic instance of this in the Bhagavatam. But it's all very auspicious. Even for those who get killed by Krishna, by Lord Nrsimhadev, they're purified by that. And we know Hiranyakashipu is a special circumstance because he is actually a great devotee who has fallen due to offending other great devotees. And the backstory is, as we all know, 4 Kumaras went up to Vaikuntha, as they are able to do because of their great purity and spiritual power. But they weren't really at that point at that instant when they approached Vaikuntha, pure devotees. They were more or less Brahmanandis, just like Shukadev. Now, it's not like Mayavadis. Mayavadis are great offenders. But Brahmanandis, they prefer Brahman, the Brahman meditating on Brahman. They understand the Narayan and, the Super Soul. But they prefer that Brahmananda. But here these Kumaras were trying to get into the Vaikuntha. And Jai and Vijay said, no, you can't come in. And they stopped their way because they weren't yet great devotees. So they became angry, very angry. It was anger again at being stopped by and they chastised Jai and Vijay, and they cursed them to come down to the material world, to fall down. And when this was going on, it was causing kind of a hubbub at the gate there, and Narayan came on his lotus feet with the four hands and everything. And it's described he had not really tulsi leaves on his feet, but it was the tulsi, what we call manjaris. I thought manjari was a metaphor for blossom, but I looked it up, and actually manjari means blossom. It goes the other way. The gopi manjaris, the girls. The metaphor is that they're just like flowers on, Radharani is the main plant, so to speak, and they're the flowers. Anyway, so we have the tulsi manjaris, and they're very fragrant. They have this special fragrance. They're even glorified in the third canto when Brahma is describing the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, and he talks about how the bees are always attracted by the manjaris, because Krishna wears all these tulsi garlands. We had that one time here. We were able to harvest a whole bunch of manjaris, and they had the garland. They really liked that. Anyway, so that fragrance of the tulsi manjaris on Krishna's lotus feet, they went and transformed them. It's a very famous verse. I forget it's Tasyada Bindan. I forget the whole verse. But just by smelling that fragrance, they became great devotees. And as soon as they did, they lamented. They were so sorry for having cursed Jai and Vijay. Narayan had to pacify them. Don't worry. That was all my plan. And it's described that he wanted to fight, but he can't fight in Vaikuntha because there's no enemies there. Everyone is very deferential. See. So the part of it was Krishna's arranging this, Narayan arranging so he could fight. Prabhupada talks about that this propensity to fight, that we have it. Where do you think it comes from? It comes from Krishna. He likes to fight too. So when he goes to Vrindavan, actually, when it's described that when he kills the demons there, he's killing them through his Vishnu expansion. Because Krishna's whole purpose there is all he does is play. It's just Leela, loving exchange. But anyway. So then the Kumaras were lamenting. There's a prayer which I memorized once, but I don't have it all. That we have thousands of births now of sinful reaction, but in all of them, may our words be offered to you just like tulsi manjaris. May our ears always be fulfilled by hearing your glories, and our hands in doing your service. It's a beautiful prayer. So they were encouraged that don't worry. It's this is not. A big mistake. This was my plan. So now we're seeing the result of the first two, actually, incarnations of Jai and Vijay. They had a blessing. They could either have many births as devotees and then come back, or 3 births as demons and come back. So they took the 3. It would be quicker. So they took So the first pair was Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyaksha. Now it's interesting that both of their names have the word Hiranya in it, which means gold. This is classic for the demons. They're always looking for gold. They want to increase as much of their wealth as possible. And in the case of Aksha means eyes. So Hiranyaksha was always looking for gold. Where can I get gold? And indeed, he mined so much gold out of the earth, that the earth became unbalanced and fell into the Garbhodaka ocean, to the bottom. So you can imagine what a disaster that was. So Lord Varaha, Krishna comes as Varaha in order to pick up the earth from that bottom of the Garbhodaka ocean there. And while he's doing that, Hiranyaksha is insulting him and walking after him, and he wants to fight with him. So Varaha is he ignores him until the earth is nicely floating, on the ocean, preparing to, I guess, get brought back to his original position. And then there's this fight that takes place in the third canto, was described in detail. And it's like this one, he's like toying with him, you know, and finally he hits him with a hoof, you know, and that's the end of Hiranyaksha. So then Hiranyakashipu, he's infuriated by that. His brother was killed, you know. So now the arch enemy is not only Vishnu, but all Vaishnavas, you know. So he becomes even worse from that. And performs his severe austerities, takes over the universe, and that's the Hiranyakashipu who we know and love, you know. Quote love. So he's taken over the whole universe. So he feels there's this thing, and some of you may know this term hubris. You know hubris? Hubris is when you're so proud that it goes to your head. You know, this is one of the demonic qualities. You think you're invincible. You think you're immortal, right? He was deluded by that. But he really was pretty invincible because of all those austerities, but not totally. So now, finally, this battle has taken place after all of this tormenting of Prahlāda. And it looks like it's tormenting, but we know that he really wasn't feeling any pain. He was completely dhira, totally peaceful, equipoised in all of that, which is incredible. You know, this is one of the reasons why he's so revered as a Mahāja. And but meanwhile, Lord Nrsimhadev, or Krishna, is getting ready to annihilate Hiranyakashipu. And of course, there's this whole thing with Brahma, who will be a little bit chastised by Nrsimhadev for offering all those boons. You know, don't do that again to the demons, you know, offering the boons. It caused a little bit of confusion. So he had to adjust everything and appear in just a form and just a time and just a place that he would still fulfill his devotees' boons, because he does that. You know, Brahma is a very pure devotee. He's also a Mahāja. So now we have the aftermath of that fight with very dramatic battle. And Hiranyakashipu was famously, let's face it, he was disemboweled, you know. And I always thought, because I think I mentioned devotees, that back in Brooklyn, there was one devotee got initiated, and I thought his name was Antarmali. Antarmali. You know what it means? You don't know what Antarmali means? What do you? Huh? Yeah. Antar means the innards, you know, the innards. But here we learned it's Antra. Apparently it's Antramali. That's the description, that he had this gall intestines. And he looked very beautiful with it. Go figure. So anyway, then he threw, you know, he pulled his heart out, he threw him aside, and then all these demons came with all their weapons. It's always so wonderful to me how they do that. They're so stupid, you know. You think the Dhenukasura, well, they're donkeys after all. Prabhupada calls them asses. Okay, let's call them jackasses, right? So it's obvious that it's reasonable they're so stupid. When Dhenukasura was very nonchalantly killed by Balaram just by whipping around, have you noticed, this is a very good thing to watch, all the demons killed in Vrindavan, they're not using any weapons. No chakra, no bow and arrow, no nothing. Because they're coward boys. So a favorite way is whipping, right? He does that, who else did he kill that way? I think there's some other demons that he kills that way. But, or choking, you know, putting the hand into Keshi, or going his whole body into Aghasura and then expanding and choking him, and then he pops out of his forehead and waits for Krishna. He walks out and merges into the body. It's very dramatic. But there's no weapons used. So, Nrsimhadev has now annihilated, and now all of his henchmen come, right? His soldiers by the thousands. And I think, well, okay, Dhenukasura's friends and associates, Prabhupada calls them. You know, they all rush forward to avenge, but then they're all killed in the same way. Well, they're donkeys, but these are human beings. They should be running the other way. I mean, here's this, you know, usually powerful demon. He conquered the whole universe, and he was killed so nonchalantly. But what about us? You know, boom, they just get sliced and diced by the amazing. What does it say? We sing every morning. Tabakata Kamalavade Nakam Adbhuta Shringam. So that Adbhuta Shringam means two things. It means that it's miraculous, it's wonderful that on your lotus hands, You have these nails that are so sharp. Or I always thought it meant another meaning, that they're wonderfully sharp, very wonderfully sharp, you know. So this is, and you can imagine all the blood, you know, is basically everywhere. So it's a horrific sight, and the demigods. Now, forgive me, I forget the chronology a little bit. Was it the demigods earlier were afraid to approach Krishna, Nrsimhadev, because he was so fierce? But now the Prahlādas approach, they're now offering their prayers again, I think. So they're going to offer, each one offers a prayer. The different demigods, Indra, Brahma has offered his prayer, but then the real feature is Prahlāda's prayers, and those go on. There's at least 30 of them. You know, he's praying wonderful, wonderful prayers, full of all kinds of knowledge and revelation, mood, and so forth. So, but here, just the idea of this anger, which Prabhupada focuses on, that anger. Now, it all depends on what you're angry about. It's just like everything else. When Krishna becomes angry, and especially in the form of Nrsimhadev, it's all very auspicious. It's all it's worshipable anger, you know. It's not something that's a fault or anything like that. The use of anger against the demons is auspicious. And even the same thing with Arjuna. Arjuna wasn't angry. He was compassionate toward the other side, because he had his friends over there, his guru was over there, his beloved grandfather figure in Bhishma, you know. I'm just going over the first chapter again, and because we're going over the revisions. And there's one verse in the first chapter, you may recall that Arjuna, and he's between, you know, not in the midst of we're going to change that, in the midst of the two armies, then they'd be anyway. In between the two armies, he and Krishna on the chariot. And suddenly Arjuna sees on the other side. Now, it's one thing if the enemy side is full of enemies. But here he sees his beloved guru, he sees his grandfather figure, and all kinds of others who are relatives and friends of his. That he has blood ties, and he has marriage ties, and all kinds of things. That's the other side. And what to speak of his own side. So suddenly he gets cold feet. He's not angry now. He's really afraid, you know, of incurring a great sin. And he has this whole argument, you recall, in the first chapter, in the beginning of the second chapter. And the basic argument is that all of these men are going to be killed, their wives will be unprotected, they'll get exploited, and there'll be Varna Sankara. We don't have such a realization of that, because practically everyone's a Varna Sankara in this age. But Varna Sankara means unwanted progeny. They are untrained, uncontrolled, they simply are a disturbance in society. You see? And he says, I'll be responsible. So I'll get sinful reactions for that, for destroying the family traditions, and for killing all these husbands. And I don't want any part of it, you know. Krishna. Remember the famous line, Govinda, I shall not fight. Right? He sits down, drops the bow, and he sits there for a little bit. And then Krishna gets on his case and said, this is an Aryan. You see? An Aryan, we're exploring that. What does Prabhupada actually say that? One who knows the values of life. One who knows the spiritual values of life is an Aryan. Yeah. Otherwise, one is an-Aryan. And Krishna accuses him being an-Aryan by doing this, because he's holding up Krishna's plan. Remember, part of his plan is to cleanse the whole world of all these demoniac soldiers. That's also part of his plan, and reinstitute Dharma and protect his devotees. So Arjuna is not following the program, so then the whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken, you see. But Arjuna has to become angry. You can't, Prabhupada says, you can't fight with becoming angry. But that's auspicious anger. Just like your hands, they can be used for worshiping the deity, or they can be used for taking a gun and holding someone up. Same hand, but how it's used makes all the difference. So this is the essence of bhakti. What is that verse near the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? There's two verses that define the essence of bhakti. One is the famous Anyabilashata Shunyam, you see. Jnana karma janavatam. Anya abhilashita, no other desire, no other aspiration. And then he gives a little sample of what they are: jnana, karma, anadi, etc. Jnana means speculation, getting knowledge in order to be impersonal, to merge, just to get. Or karma, all of the many, many ways in which you can have fruitive activity for enjoyment, you know. And then he says, and adi, etc., and others, you know. Not avritam. These desires obscure, cover our real nature of being devotees. And even as devotees, we're not pure because we're still a little bit covered by some of these. Desire for liberation and desire for sense gratification and whatever. So it's absolutely uncleared of all those. Okay, that's what it's not. Now what is it? Anukulena Krishnanushilanam. Shilanam means behavior or activity. Everything you do with all your senses, your mind, your intelligence, you see, all of that, whatever you have, the money and so forth, is what? Anukulena Krishna is activities favorable for Krishna's pleasure. Anukuli means favorable. Krishnanushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. This is pure devotional service. This is the goal of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We're not just worshipping Narayan and Vishnu so we can get a position in Vaikuntha or liberation or have a nice opulent place here. No, that's not pure bhakti. So then there's another one in that I think associated with that, very close to it. And that's more pertinent to what we're talking about. Sarvapari vinimuktam tatparatvena nimanam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uttama. So sarva upadis. Now this word upadi is very important. Who can explain what that means? You remember? Come on, Balaram. Yeah. Upadi is a material designation, a false designation. I am American. There's a Russian. What are you doing here? You know, I mean, that's actually we have quite a little United Nations here. A couple of Russians. We have a Filipino, and I'm an old Pole. My grandfathers were from Poland. You know, but you know that. Huh? Nebraska? Yeah, I bet it is. So the thing is, you know, people get into you go outside and everyone's doing that. Oh, you know, I'm now a San Diegan. I've made it. You know, it's complete ignorance, and they live their whole lives that way. Basically, it's based on the body, where you're born, what family you're born into, what color it is, the language, the wealth, you know, all of that. So that's these upadis. Vinimuktam, completely liberated from that. What is our designation? Spirit soul, eternal servant of Krishna. Very important verse by Lord Chaitanya at the very beginning of his instruction to Sanatana Goswami. What was Sanatana Goswami's first question to Lord Chaitanya? Kayami, who am I? Who am I really? You know, he's asking for us, you know. So the answer is classic. It's foundational to the whole movement, to the whole understanding. Jivera Swarupoi, Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatastar Shakti, Veda Ved Prakash. The second line is not so famous, but it's really important. So the first question is foundational for all Bhakti Yoga, Gaudiya Vaishnava. Jivera Swarupoi, the Swarup, the actual nature, not some false identification that we take, but who we really are as souls. The Jiva, Jivera Swarupoi, the Swarup, Krishnera Nityadas, eternal servants of Krishna. Eternal servants of Krishna. And we've lost that. We've forgotten that. The whole thing, you can't lose it, but you can forget it. And you can live in that illusion for millennia. Probably talks about millennia. Millennia, he gave a new meaning to the word millennia. You look up word millennium in the dictionary, what do you think you'll find? Does anyone know? 1,000 years. That's it. Or it's got this biblical thing, you know, yeah, you know. But it's not, but Prabhupada gave it a new meaning, a very, very long time. It can be the life of Brahma at the end of the millennium, or the end of the Chatur Yuga, the 4 yugas. So anyway, Jivera Swarupoi, no matter how many lifetimes we're in this material world, and who knows how many lifetimes of Brahma we've been going around and around and around, you know. But our Swarup never changes. We're eternally Krishna's servants. And the whole point in bhakti is to reacquire that, to revive that consciousness and that attitude. And there's a whole system of doing that. The main thing is to act like Krishna's service. And of course, to chant the holy name. Because by the chanting, you're associating directly with Krishna. And Krishna is, oh, they're chanting my name. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam Krishna Punyashavanaki, when Krishna hears, he understands, he's in there, that you're hearing about him, he becomes very pleased. Just the chanting of Hare Krishna, even if impurely, is very pleasing to the Lord. And what does he do? From inside, he inspires you. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritim tadami buddhi. He gives the intelligence by which we can progress toward him. The intelligence to open that book that you bought like 10 years ago and put on the shelf, or maybe you bought from that nice man in the park. All right, let me try it. You know, let me look at what it is. So that develops faith. The faith is so important. You realize our life is made of faith. I like to give the example. We were sitting here on Garnet and Grand Avenue. So these cars are rolling down. They come pretty fast, you know. And then the light is yellow. Okay, stop, right? Red. And then when it turns green, you have full faith that the other one is now red, right? If they're both green, you're finished, you see? So just your everyday life is built with so much faith. Prabhupada gives the example of the airplane. You know, now this crisis with Boeing. Boeing was big, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, maker of airplanes. But they've had all these problems. The doors are blowing off and things are happening. Near accidents. I don't think they had a huge accident with 100 people killed yet or something. But it's now people, do they have faith in Boeing? If that happens, forget it. Is it a Boeing plane? I'll cancel my flight. You know? So you can see the problem. Probably gives that example. If you bought a ticket for a flight to New York from Los Angeles, you have to have faith, confidence that they'll take off and land safely. You know. So faith is integral to our life at all times. So developing that faith in Krishna is not so easy because we can't see him, you know. And we're surrounded, we're in an environment where it could be atheistic or they have some conception of God, it's false, you know, whatever. So it's not easy to develop faith in Krishna. But that's the whole point of this movement. And that's why it's so important to have contact with a pure devotee. What's that verse? Tuliyama labenapi naswagam nopanaparam bhagavat sangasya martyanam kimutashisha. It appears twice in Bhagavatam. It means it's very important. Even a moment's association with an associate of the Lord, the very poetic, Bhagavat Sangi. Sangi means one who is associating with. Sangha is the association. So Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya, the association of a personal associate, another pure devotee, the value of that is way beyond anything else in this world. And he gives some examples. Going to heaven and enjoying for thousands of years in Indraloka. Sounds good, huh? No, not good. Too distracting. Even liberation, not coming back, Aparnar Bhava. It makes it appear very insignificant, those. Because by that association, the seed of devotion can be planted, and it is seed, very much a part of it is faith. Faith in the process of devotional service. And that was what Prabhupada gave. He didn't only give his books and the holy name, but he gave himself his own association, in which people had faith in chanting. They would try it, you know, because they saw his wonderful personality and his knowledge and his character and everything. So that's invaluable. And of course, that association can also come through media, especially books, you know. But now even we have through YouTube, whatever. By the way, I'm going to give you. I was looking for some biography, basically, of Gopal Krishna Maharaj yesterday, and I found it on. I think it's on Dandabats. They had it, but also on ISKCON News. There's a site called the ISKCON News. And besides that, they had this incredible thing describing how they're made outfits for the installation of the Shringadev, the opening of the Shringadev wood. They had to make outfits for all the deities. 49, when you count the Panchatattva and Krishna and the 8 gopis and the Shringadev and there's all others. So they showed them putting these beads in, you know, the whole team of them. It's so inspiring, just the devotion that they're putting. And then they showed the final result. It's fabulous, you know. And the artists, they have these artists that are painting now for the internal part, you know, and this art is just exquisite. So these things are, you know, I'll try to find them again and give you the link. They're very, very inspiring. So what Prabhupada gave us, he planted this seed of faith and also and he gave us the process. And as soon as you start the process with some faith, what happens? Your consciousness is transformed. Krishna's pleased from inside. He's giving you some peace. You know, that worry and anxiety, all of this confusion, it starts to dissipate, and you become more attracted to Krishna, and you become, you know, a devotee. Right? So therefore, anger. Now, Krishna said in the 16th chapter, when it's material anger, this is one of the gateways to hell. Prabhupada Krishna says right in the 16th chapter, Trivadam Narakassedam, Naraka is hell. Trivadam Narakassedam Dwara. Dwara means a door or a gate or an opening. Trivadam Narakassedam Dwaram Nashanam Atmana Kama Krodha Tata Lobha Tasmarita Toyam Tujait. So he's just described what happens to the demons. Eventually, you know, they get thrown into hell. He says, I throw them into hell, you know. So here's the 3 gates. Lust, anger, and greed. The wise person gives these up, you know, through the process of bhakti. And what's the benefit? He says, etam vimoktam etam muktaya. Then he says he works for his own, for Shreyas, and he goes to the supreme goal. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the Sanskrit. I have to review these more. So paramgatim. You see, if you can escape these 3 gates, well, it's not so easy. You have to dovetail them. Anger can be dovetailed. Somebody walks in here and was attacking the devotees of the deities, you know, punch them in the face. It's all good. It's good use of anger. Ask Buddy around. You'll get you 10 instances in the history where you can remember that. He's in Detroit. Some demon runs up the stairs. The temple's on the 2nd floor. And he runs into the temple, and he's running toward the deities. Luckily, it was a devotee there. It was a good fighter, and he was cleaning the place. He tackled them just before I think he touched right around his, you know, sorry, and then beat him up. It's all good. It's all good. Anyway, so there's a place for anger, and there's a place for lust. You know, Krishna says, Dharma Varuddha Buddha Shud, Kamosmi Bhadatasha. I am that Kama, which is not against Dharma. You know, we're all the great devotees, they grew up as children of a mother. You know, there was sex life involved there. But it's pious sex life. Krishna says, I am that sex life. So that can be used for Krishna. So then Krishna ends this chapter, and it's very important, this 16th chapter. Because if you're not able to give those up, then you're acting whimsily. And he says, Yak Shastra Vidam. Now he brings in the Shastra. See, Shastra, Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. Each word has a root, and that root is important, is good to know. So Shastra, the root of the word Shastra is Shas. Shas basically means to control. So it's the root of all the word Shishya. Shishya is a word for disciple, means I agree to be controlled by the words of Krishna, by the words of the Guru. Shastra is a weapon with a short A. That's why it's important to get those long and short A's. Shastra is a weapon. It can be a knife, or it can be a sword, or it can be an atom bomb. It's Shastra. And Shastra, we know, is scripture. I agree to be controlled by the words of Shastra. So, Krishna is saying here, Shastra vidam utsaja, if one gives up the instructions of Shastra, and then what? Vartate kamaka, and continues to act according to his lust, to his whims, act whimsically, then what's the result? Not good. Nasasiddhim abapnodi nasukam naparam gatim. That person does not get perfection, does not get happiness, and does not go to the supreme goal. So here's very good instruction. That's what we're doing. The book distribution is to try to get people to read these books. They're all Shastra. Even the higher taste, all of them, they're Shastra. Because their basic point is to get people interested in Krishna consciousness and bring them up to the point where they read Bhagavad Gita and take the life seriously. So then the last verse is critical, this chapter. Again, he emphasizes Shastra. Tasmat, therefore, Shastra pramanam te karya karya vastato gatva shastra vidanoktam karma karta miharisi. The word pramana. This is a very important concept for us. Pramana is something that you trust to give you instructions for how to live. In other words, one should accept Shastra, real Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Not other Bhagavad Gita. As it is, as pramana for what to do and what not to do. Our whole life is simply doing one thing and not another. So how do we choose what to do? Tasmat shastram pramanam te karya karya, what to do and what to avoid. Karya karya vavastatu, to establish and get a certain understanding. And then understanding what the Shastra says. Gatva shastra vidanoktam, the words of Shastra, karma karta miharasi. Then act in that way as a matter of duty. Now we have to have something to do as duty when it's not natural for us. Duty means that you accept a higher instruction or a higher authority for what to do. You go into the army and you have to do what the general says and the corporal and so many others, you know. That's why I was a conscientious objector when I was a kid. So many people destroyed by that army. You see these guys on the corners, these vets from Vietnam, you know, they're in their 60s, 70s now. And moral hazard, you know, what happens is so many had moral injuries, meaning that they go, you know, they're sucked into that. Prabhupada mentions that he's in the middle of the 60s when everyone's getting inducted, getting drafted. And you know, they go in and they get trained up and they go out and they're in Vietnam, you know, and then there's a village there and boom, they shoot the enemy. There's a Viet Cong and they go in there and there's a bunch of dead kids that they just killed. Some simple guy from Iowa. It's not easy to get over that. That's where the PTSD comes in, you know. Anyway, but here this war, this Kurukshetra war is auspicious. It's all auspicious because Krishna's there. Everyone gets killed, goes back to Godhead or gets liberated, whatever. And all who fight on Krishna's side, of course, Yudhishthira. Although he was really upset when you read the first canto, he was heartbroken from all. He was responsible for all these deaths and the animals, the poor elephants and the horses, you know. So he was then encouraged by Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev is lying. It's actually Bhishma Panchaka, I think, is happening now. Anyways, it's going to happen soon. So the whole point that I wanted to make is we have certain facilities. We have our intelligence, we have our mind, we have our senses, we have our desires, and how we use those makes all the difference in our destiny. We can use them in a way and develop demonic tendencies, and this is a very dangerous age for that. But Prabhupada came, Lord Chaitanya came to save these Kali Yugites from this, you know, horrible suffering. And he gave this easy process of Harinam Sankirtan, chanting the holy name, and he inspired Rupa Goswami to write the systematic book, The Nectar of Devotion. We have all the Shastra and the examples, and Prabhupada came to deliver all of that to the Western worlds. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine, delivering us from impersonalism and voidism and just materialism. So we're very fortunate, and we should take full advantage of the facilities we have. Beautiful temple, such wonderful, compassionate, wonderful deities. You know, there's one lady, I've been here so long, it'll be 35 years in July. And there's one lady named, we used to call her Purple, I never knew her name. She always wears purple, and she would always sit down there, right at the feet of Gauranitai. She's coming back, you see it? I saw her. She's like in her 70s now. You know, she rides this bike, and I said, "There you are." I said, "There you are, your constitutional position." She said, "Yes, yes." She has such an attraction for these deities, and that's very, very auspicious. So we should cultivate that. The whole thing is maximizing our attraction for Krishna, and automatically then minimizing our attraction for Maya, and trying to help others get attracted to Krishna. That's what his name means, Krishna, all attractive. Krishna, there's a verse just analyzing the name, you know. The Krish is a root, is one of these roots I mentioned, that means all attractive. And na is the bliss. So Krishna means, and when you put them together, this is the Param Brahma. Toral Aikyam Param Brahma Krishna Ityabhidiyate. It's right in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we're very fortunate. Who knew? Just this, simple chanting of Hare Krishna, how powerful it can be. So we're going to hear all these wonderful prayers now, and then we'll hear the prayers of Prahlāda. It's a very, very important chapter. Prabhupada would quote many of them, and they're conclusive. All right, I went over time. Sorry, get carried away. Yes, Prabhu.
Krishna, thank you for a wonderful lecture.
Hare Krishna.
I just have a small comment. I was just remember reading in the 11th canto when King Nabi was being instructed by the 9 Yogendras. There's actually, because you were mentioning about moment's association with the pure devotee, how it's the most auspicious thing.
Yeah.
But it is mentioned here that there's a text in the second chapter, text number 30. It is said that, therefore, a completely sinless one, I ask you to kindly tell me, this is King Nabi speaking, what the supreme good is. After all, even half of a moment's association with the pure devotees within this world of birth and death is a priceless treasure for any man. So not just a moment, but even a half of the moment.
Well, let's be honest. This is what you're giving out there. You're giving more than a moment's association, and it's these stories just. You and Govardhan and Vijay sending out these incredible stories. That's exactly what's going on. You're giving your association, and of course, Prabhupada's association. And not only Prabhupada's association, but Prabhupada says, I think in the first canto, near the beginning, and we want to thank Narada Muni for so kindly appearing on these pages of the Bhagavatam. So to see, that we have opportunity to hear Narada Muni and Prahlāda Mahārāja and Krishna himself, and 11th canto, you got the Uddhava Gita. Believe it or not, I read the Uddhava Gita before I read the Bhagavad Gita. I'll tell you how that happened. It wasn't, it was from the Ramakrishna mission. Yatamat Tatapat. I was inclined toward Bhakti, so they said, we have some Bhakti books in this. Believe it or not. Then I was saved from that by the devotees in Brooklyn. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? No. No, she. Oh, okay. Dr. Chad.
Just have a quick question. So when Prabhupada refers to hell, is he just referring to planets lower than Earth, the hellish planets, in general when he says it?
When Prabhupada refers to it, or when Krishna? Because Krishna is referring to it here. In another case, Shivadam Narakasyaidam, Naraka is hell. But really, the way Prabhupada translated that is this. He doesn't call it hell there, and just hell. It's this hellish life or hellish experience. It's going down because you're going to experience hell, but then you'll be born as an animal. This is hellish existence for the living entity. That's what it's broader than just what. But there's hells. We went through the 5th canto. Were you here at the end of the 5th canto? I've read it. Yeah, you read it. It's pretty sobering, and that's just a sample. No, hell is real, just like heaven is real, but we don't want to go to either of them. I want to go back to Godhead permanently. All right, if you allow me, yes. One verse about Lord Nrsimhadev that's not so famous, but you may remember back in the 6th canto, chapter 8, there were this Narayana Kavacha shield. You remember that? This is a mantra that's like you can chant it for like armor to protect yourself against bad influence. So here's one verse about Lord Nrsimhadev from there, because it goes to different avatars. Vidikshu dikshur vamadak samantad anta bahir. Sound famous? Anta bahir, we sing every morning. Anta bahir Bhagavan Narasingha. Bahapayan lokabayam swanena sotejasa grasta samasta teja. Prahlāda Mahārāja, the problem is this shouting. Prahlāda Mahārāja loudly chanted the holy name of Lord Nrsimhadev and this prayer. May Lord Nrsimhadev, roaring for his devotee Prahlāda Mahārāja. Okay, anyway, I think it's describing Prahlāda Mahārāja, loudly chanted. That was it. May Lord Nrsimhadev, roaring for his devotee Prahlāda Mahārāja, protect us from all fear of dangers created by stalwart leaders in all directions through poison, weapons, water, fire, air, and so on. May the Lord cover their influence by his own transcendental influence. May Nrsimhadev protect us in all directions and in all corners, above, below, within, and without. So if you feel when you go, you're walking back to your apartment late at night, then you can chant these. And there's a whole Narayan Kavach I can give you if you want. Many, many verses that of protection, ending in this Garjantam Karjayantam, which I think I shared with you before. But if anyone wants that verse, very powerful. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bo.